Hello.
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 All right.
Hi. Okay, I'm Chelsea.
And I'm
Hold
Dan.
on.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Hi. Be right with you.
Okay.
okay.
Oh wait, are you trying to keep that up?
It's fine.
Okay.
Come on. Follow me. Spin around and follow me. Follow me to the computer. Okay. Spin around. Come on.
You need a chair.
I'll get a chair. All right, pull right up.
Hi,
Hey, Mr. Rattle.
Hi.
Chelsea.
Okay, let me turn up the volume. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Ooh. Try that.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you just fine.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay. So should we start?
I don't know.
We should start.
Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, we are recording this interview with a Skype recorder. So is that okay?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're recording the interview.
Oh, sure. Yes.
I didn't know that was possible.
Okay. So could you tell us about your life before joining the Tuskegee Airmen?
Okay.
Hold on.
Right. Roughly, I grew up on the streets of Brooklyn, New York. You familiar with Brooklyn?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the boroughs. At that time, we didn't have television or computers or iPads. So we had to make up our entertainment as we went along. One of the games we played was called Follow the Leader. At that time, I was in a group called the Pee Wees, and we always wanted to follow the older boys in the neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? And so uh, it was one game. One day, the older boys led us up to the roof, which was 5 stories high. On the top floor, there was a ledge that stuck out about 3 feet. Now, that ledge wasn't there for cosmetic effect. For instance, if someone was moving a piano into their apartment, the stairs were too narrow, so they would hoist the piano up to the front window by pulleys, and then they would take out the window, and then the piano would swing from a large pulley, which was attached to the ledge, and somebody in the apartment would pull the piano in. Now, this ledge is where the older boys would dare each other to walk.
Wow.
If they felt it meant instant death, they would try and see which one could be closest to the edge. And the peewees would be following along, you know. And one day my mother saw me up getting ready to stand up. Right away, she sent my uncle up to the roof to get me.
Oh no.
He didn't want to startle me. He just becked me over with a casual wave of his hand. I climbed down and walked toward him. I felt like I was on top of the world. At last, I was doing things the older boys did. See, no sooner than I said, "Did you see?" He started to rain blows all over my head at street level. That ended my rooftop flights. Another experience with Follow the Leader involved smoking. Now, we lived near the Hydrox Laundry. This is a place where the trucks came in with soiled linen from area hotels. The laundry was placed in these large rolling bins. They were 3 feet by 4 feet. The top rims of the bins were 4 inches of woven bamboo shoots in a basket weave, you see. The body of the bins were made of stiff canvas. The boys would cut sections of the bamboo and light them up like cigarettes. My uncle saw me smoking with the boys. Boots, he said, that was my nickname. You don't have to smoke this foul stuff. Let's go around to the candy store. Cigarettes at that time were a penny a piece, so they sold them loose instead of packs. See? So we went out on the stoop next to the candy store, and he lit up one for himself, he lit up one for me. He had about 15 cigarettes. See? And so we were, I felt like I'd arrived again. Smoking is a real cigarette, smoking a real cigarette instead of that stuff.
Oh.
Before I finished the first cigarette, he lit up another one for me. I smoked that one too. And so it went until he was all out. At this point, I started feeling sick to my stomach,
Oh.
dizzy in my head. Uncle Earl, I just got to go up and lie down. He smiled and said, go ahead. Later that morning, I awakened to hear Uncle Earl and my mother in the kitchen talking. As soon as I entered the kitchen, Uncle Earl lit up a cigarette and blew the smoke in my face. I got sick immediately and went to the bathroom to upchuck. You see.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Listen.
Well, that ended my smoking career, and I haven't smoked a cigarette since.
Well, that's great.
The last, the last foul experience I want to share with you involves swimming.
Swimming.
Yeah. We lived about 1 block from the Harlem River. It was the habit of older boys to jump in. There were pylons in the river. You see, well, it was because of a project to build a bridge from the Yankee Stadium to this side of Manhattan, uptown Manhattan, see? And because the pylons were there, strong currents creating deadly whirlpools. You know what I mean? The big metal things and the water was rushing up, and then it would swirl around, and that was the death trap, you see. So one hot July day, the older boys were on the banks of the river stripping naked. We Pee-wees followed too. Soon it was my turn to jump in. And I was going to jump to my death. I didn't know it because I couldn't swim. When I heard one of the boys yell loudly, "Hey, Boots, your mother!" I turned and saw my mother wielding a strap as long as she was tall. She stung my rear end until all the way home. And you know, I ran naked through the streets. The people hung out their windows and shouted, "Atta girl, Margie, give one for me." I finally reached our apartment and ran up the stairs as fast as I could. But I couldn't outrun that strap. I was mad, but she really saved my life because I really couldn't swim. Thus ended my swimming career. I didn't learn to swim until I later became a Tuskegee Airman. So, those are the type of things we had as youngsters. See, we played with each other, dared each other, played dozens with each other. And are you familiar with dozens? The term dozens?
Yes.
You might be. That's when you talk about a person's family, their mother, and all like that. And what happens usually ends up in a fight. You see what I mean?
Oh.
They'll say, your mother wears con boot bats. You know what I mean? For shoes, you see. And then they put a chip on their shoulder and say that again. And boom, you got a fight going. You know what I mean? So
But those fights were with fists.
Yeah. You know, we didn't, at that time, didn't do guns and knives. It was all gangs and fists. Like, yeah.
These fights today are scary.
Yes,
Yeah, they
very
are.
scary.
Yeah.
So, when you were living in New York as a child, did you experience a lot of racial segregation?
Not a lot, but well, I'll tell you this. Well, in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
in the evening, the boys and the girls, and would be our, well, we would pass the time away by circling the neighborhood. The boys got, and each passing stoop, you know some people here, some people there. But when we got to another part of the Brooklyn, we started this wonderful smell came us. You know, I don't know if you ever smelled it. The beautiful smell from the ice cream parlor. You
Oh,
see, ice cream would be drifting out, and so we went into the ice cream parlor, and this fellow, he was Burgerman. I imagine, I think he was. I didn't get his papers, but I think he was Jewish, you know, and he was very prejudiced. He did not want Negroes in his place. So we went in as a gang. We went in, and some sat at the counter, some sat down in the chairs, and a waitress came out, another girl with frill on her hair, waitress cap, and apron, you know, and she didn't know what to do. So we said, we'd like some, I said, I'd like some ice cream, an ice cream soda. Others got ordered banana splits and all like that. And so she never encountered this type of adversity. And so we started, and the owner came out. And when he saw that we were Negro,
mhm.
he took the glasses and just broke them in the.
Oh,
I can really hear the tingle now, you know,
oh.
and he said, uh, you know, we don't serve your kind in here, and don't come back, et cetera, et cetera. So uh, the next day, we went around again, but this time we started, you know, yelling in the store, you know, little things that so forth. This yelling things that yelling things about his family and so forth. And he come out with a bat.
A
Look at
Oh
bat.
wow.
a bat, and we started running away. He couldn't catch.
Oh, oh.
But about a week later, my mother wrote it was the NAACP, and they started what do you call it, against the store?
Boycott.
Huh?
A boycott?
Yeah, they started a boycott against the store, and within that month, he was gone.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah, he was gone. But other than that, I didn't experience any segregation as far as I know, anyway.
All right. How did you find out about the Tuskegee Airmen?
Uh, it was when I was at the age I was drafted, you see, and they used to run a story about the Tuskegee Airmen in the paper, but I didn't pay it any mind. But one of the stories was about uh, an Indian, Sadat Singh was his name,
oh.
Sesingh, and they were saying that I think he was from India, his family, and he became a Tuskegee Airman, and they used to run his story, you know, and I used to just wonder about it, but I never thought about it much, but I really felt bad because he died a week later, crash landed, and he died. So at the time, I was drumming professionally uh, in New York, you know, and I worked at the age of about 15. I played for many different bands, and I built my chops, so to speak. You know what that means? Yeah. Uh, I was constantly exposed to the New York music scene, including the availability of drugs. However, the older musicians protected me, And thankfully, I never got caught up in that scene. Well, I eventually worked up gigging on 52nd Street, which was the jazz mecca of the world. Did you ever hear of that?
Yeah, we
Look
saw an
it up,
article.
52nd Street.
52nd
That's
Street.
52nd Street.
all the people came from all over the world to 52nd Street to hone their wares, so to speak. They had such clubs as the Downbeat, the Three Deuces, and the Spotlight, and the Onyx Club. And they were all up on either side of the street. It was a small street. And that's where the Rockefeller Center is now. You know where they have the skating rink and all like
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, see, that's where the 52nd Street used to be. I worked at the clubs such as the Three Deuces, the Spotlight, the Downbeat, and the Onyx.
When you
And
were
I,
15?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
When you were 15, you were
Yeah,
working? That's
mhm,
Whoa, that's
amazing.
nice.
yeah. Well, they protected me. You see, the musicians protected me. You know, and the club owners, they had pull with the inspector when he came around. You see what I mean? That's how that stuff worked in many places. And I played with such greats as Maxine Sullivan. You ever heard of her?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look her up. Now, look, you got to do your homework. See?
Yeah.
These names I tell you, I don't want to just bounce off because
Yeah,
they
pencil.
were infected. I mean, they affected me. And so I want you to read about them.
Yes.
I would appreciate it.
What's her name again?
Maxine Sullivan.
Okay. Maxine Sullivan.
And the next one,
Yeah.
Sullivan.
Ben,
That's you. Yeah.
Okay. We'll look her up.
Yeah.
and the next one, the Ben Webster,
Ben Webster.
Pearl Bailey.
Pearl.
You may have
Pearl.
heard, your parents may have heard of them. Pearl Bailey.
Okay.
And another one, Billie Holiday. You've
Oh, we've
got,
heard
Oh
of
yeah, we
Billie
heard of Billie
Holiday.
Holiday.
you heard about Billie Holiday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard some of her songs before.
yeah. She wrote that really song, and it affected America. It called "Strange Fruit."
Strange
Oh yeah.
Fruit.
Do you understand? Do you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
I think I've heard
I've
it.
heard of Strange Fruit, but it was the people who got lynched.
Yeah. See, and then from the tree. So this tree, she was talking about the lynched people being strange fruit from the tree. You see,
Hmm.
and they banned that from being played in New York. You know. So,
Okay.
uh, and then I flying high. With what I was doing made me feel great. Talk about flying high. I was the toast of the town because I would go to these clubs and I would be drumming and I'd be underage, but everybody, they were protecting me. And then uh,
A few years later.
this was a few days later. I received a letter in the mail that stated greetings. You know what that is?
Oh, the draft letter.
Huh?
Draft.
So
Did
Yes,
you
is
draft
it a
it?
draft letter?
they said the draft letter.
That's correct. Greetings. My heart sank. For those of you
Oh.
who don't know, that means I was drafted in the army. My wings were clipped. I was flying high, but my wings were clipped. A few days later, I was on a bus full of draftees heading for Camp Upton in Long Island. As the bus drove up, there was a cacophony of sounds, all kinds of sounds. There were a band playing, soldiers were marching and doing close order drills and yelling and so forth. As we got off the bus, a sergeant came up and bellowed, "All you colored boys who want to be flyers, there's a class starting down the Tuskegee now. Anybody interested, step over here to my left. The rest of you freeze right where you are and don't move." Well, out of the busload, four of us stepped forward. He immediately took us to a building and started examining and testing us. This included a physical exam and testing for color blindness and hand-eye coordination. If there is
Now,
time, oh, can I describe that? I don't know.
Sure. How much time do you have for your interview?
Oh, we have
As much
plenty of
time as you
time.
need.
Oh, okay.
It's very
Okay,
fascinating.
thank
So
you.
describe the hand-eye coordination test.
Okay. Now, picture this, if you will, like a phonograph with uh, with the the spindle that they put the phonograph on as it goes around.
Yeah.
Well, this was sort of a plate, and it was like made up of a hard material, but right right in the middle of it, they had a section, a little silver piece about the size of a dime embedded in that. It was flush with the uh,
Platinum.
right. Now, they gave us a wand about 18 inches long, and at the end of this wand was a metal chip, a small metal chip at the end. Now, the idea was that you put the wand on this dime, like I'm calling it a dime, it's just a metal strip about the size of a dime,
Yep.
and then you make that contact, and as that disc rotates, the object was to keep the chip on the dime while the platter rotated without bending it. If you press down on it, your score would stop. You see, and they had a big
Oh.
board in back of you,
Mhm.
and when the metal touched the chip and you kept it on there, your score would go up. You could hear click, 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 click in back of you, you know. And so this was no problem to me, you know, moving around like that with a soft touch. You see, you know, with a soft touch. And so, uh,
Because you're a drummer.
you know, yeah. Why do you think it wasn't a problem for me?
Because you
Because
were
you're a
a
drummer.
drummer.
Because I was a drummer.
Yep.
That's correct. You know, and we use brushes. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We use brushes, and so the corporal there, he bent down under the board, pushed the button, and it started going around faster.
Oh.
I was right with it, and it didn't break. And so after about a minute of that, he said, "Well, I've never seen anybody do this. That's the highest I've ever seen, you know."
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah, and so he, you know, he cleared me for right away for pilot, navigation, or bombardier. Well, at the time, they had enough pilots, and so but they needed a lot of uh, bombardiers and navigators. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because because of the
Because they
war.
were starting the 477th.
Yeah. See, and so at that time, they put us right on the train. But me, I was the only one who passed. You know, of the four, of step four, I was the only one who passed. And they put me on the train, and I told them I was hungry. I remember that. And they gave me a sandwich and a bag lunch and all like that. And so, as I say, I had no idea that my drumming skills would prepare me to qualify for a career in aviation. You never know. So I was immediately put on a train to Biloxi, Mississippi, and they classified me as a pre-aviation cadet, PAC. When I arrived at Biloxi, I got off the train onto it was really a lonely, desolate platform with one dim, dangling light bulb
Oh.
in the early morning. I waited there in the semi-dark, feeling deserted and experiencing culture shock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, from going so up north into Mississippi.
Thank you, you got it right.
Yes.
There was a far cry from the bright lights of New York. After what seemed an eternity, maybe about 15 minutes, I saw a pair of bright lights uh, cutting through the darkness, heading towards me. When the Jeep pulled up, a rough, raspy voice called out to me, "Your name, Battle?" and so forth. I, s- I said, "Yes." And so he said, "Well, get your blank, blank, blank in here. We don't have all night." Well, that was my introduction to the South.
Oh.
5 weeks later, after passing that level, I was a full cadet on the train to Tuskegee, Alabama. And it was storming when we arrived. As we lined up in front of the bus, this tall, fierce-looking Negro sergeant bellowed, "So you want to come to Tuskegee?" That's how he would say it. See? "Well, you're at Tuskegee. Now get down and give me 50." And that's what, you know what I mean when they say that? Get
Yeah.
down.
Bishops.
50 push-ups.
And down we went because we were sharp. Us, we were no speck of dirt, but here we are in the mud. When we got up, you couldn't tell us from it. We were just filled with mud and dirt and everything. That was our introduction to Tuskegee. And that was their way of divesting you of any pride you might have. You understand what I'm saying? Well, they did that, you know. So that was my first class at Tuskegee. For the
Nice.
next 6 weeks, we learned about airplane identification, mathematics. I graduated from Tuskegee and was ready for advanced training. I was told at that time that all the power slots were filled. And because of my high scores on the coordination test, I was eligible to be a navigator bombardier and could use my skills to operate the new Norden bomb site that had just been developed. So I was off to gunnery school in Panama City for 4 weeks. And gunnery school, you graduated by shooting. You had to shoot and burst what we call pigeons. You know when they release something that's around clay.
Yeah.
Clay pigeons.
Play
Yes.
pigeons and then you
Yep.
shoot them.
And so this truck, that you would step on a flatbed truck, and they would have you step inside of a ring. It was like all around that held you in the middle, and they closed that thing around your waist, and you couldn't move. You know, it steadied you.
Mhm.
And as you went, you didn't know exactly where those pigeons were coming from, and so the instructor would load your gun. You'd fire, and he'd put the shells in. Now there's only one place that you did not want to hit those things. That was when you went right at you. You see,
Oh.
at you. And if you burst it, all that stuff would get in your eyes and everything.
Yeah.
Ugh. True.
And so what you had to do, act. You had to act like you were aiming. You know what I mean? And I'd pick a spot below it and fire. You know what I mean, like that. He said, "Well, I'm not going to send you to go around. You look like you were hitting it, you know." So I felt pretty good at that. But I graduated from gunnery school, and then we went to navigation and bombardiering, you know, like that. And the and I was still drumming. Like they'd have 3 students on a flight. You fly a triangle. One would take from the home base, maybe a couple, yeah, 100 yards to IP point. Then the second cadet would take over. Then the last one would take you back, back. And so there were some pretty nice experiences that we had flying there as the experience that we got. And the thing was this: so you never thought about accidents or dying, because when you're young like that, you just don't think about that. You see, and the army divests you of all fear. No kid, you can't wait to get up to get in that training again.
Did you tell them about your final navigating exam?
No. Uh, thanks. The final exam was a night exercise,
Yep.
and they didn't have, they wouldn't have your regular instructor there to give you the final exam. They would call back a bombardier from the European theater, one who was actually flown, the flights and so forth. And this guy was real raunchy. He was a white fella, and we'd have masks on for the oxygen. You see, they go over our nose, rubber masks,
Yep.
and he would just put this empty hose in his mouth, just and sit back there, and he wouldn't say nothing to me. Now the idea, you had to go out to this target. You had to go out to this target, and you had to drop your bomb and then return. Well, on this particular night, it was my bad luck that the wind was blowing sort of a crosswind. And so when the pilot, at a certain time on the bomb run, the bombardier has a plane on an automatic pilot. The bombardier flies the plane with the northern bomb sight, you see. And so I could see the target in the distance, and I was making correction. The time I make a correction, the wind would blow me off course.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so I had to guide it back and get on. And then at one time, see, there's a crosshair there. When you look through the northern bomb sight, you see a crosshair, and the crosshair is moving up and down. The idea is to keep it still as possible on the target as you move. So at one time, as we were getting closer to the target, about 10 miles or so, and we were going, and so the wind was blowing, and I was worried because this guy wasn't giving me any cooperation at all, and he was,
Oops. Sorry about that. We're at
We're
school.
at school.
that's it, what did you say?
They're at school. That was the school bell.
Yeah, school bell.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. You have to go wait.
Oh no.
Oh no,
No.
it's just it's already school's over.
Yeah, school's
so-
over. It's just an after-school class bell that
Yeah.
rang.
Okay.
Fine. You
So
can keep
this-
on going.
So these crosshairs were riding. I said, well, I got to go ahead and gamble, and I tried to mathematically figure out where the target was, where the crosshair was, where the wind was, and what time. And so I just you flick a switch, and what happened when you flick that switch, the motor, two indices would be coming down, one from the bottom, one from the top. And when they meet, there's a flash, and that flash opens up the bomb bay doors, and the bomb is released. You see? So this this thing went off, a flash, and I started feeling sorry for myself because it was graduation, and if you failed graduation, that means that you were out of it altogether. And don't you know that the Lord was with me? That bomb, the 100-pound bomb, that bomb hit the shack of the target, the shack. And when you hit the shack, you see all colors of red, white, and blue. It's just, Lord, man, I couldn't believe it. And then this instructor, he hit me on the back. He said, "Good going, Colonel. Student cadet." He said, "You're going to be my guest at the officers club for dinner.
Nice.
We'll order you a big steak." So fate is with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes fate is with you. And so that was one of the main things I. Uh, now, there's something I want to tell you about where I was almost killed by friendly fire.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, this was on a Saturday morning, and we were down at uh, Alabama, and on Saturday morning uh, after inspection, noon inspection, you're free until Monday morning. Well, we, we went down. We got on the bus down at the entrance, the Army bus,
Yeah.
and it was hot. And there must have been about 40 of us on the bus. And so we were hoping we would take off right away. But the guard, the corporal of the guard, he was the one who controlled the engine. And it seemed like he was just dilly dallying. And somebody on the bus said, I don't know who, all he said was, will you please hurry up? It's hot in here. And he turned around and he said, who said that? And he went on the bus, and the first cadet he saw, he picked him up, by his arm, said, follow me. And he was going toward the guardhouse. The little guardhouses they have? He was going to the guardhouse. When he looked, we all got up, because we backed each other. We all got up and got off the bus. And when he looked back and saw all of us off the bus, he let that cadet go and ran to his guardhouse and got one of those Thompson machine guns. You know what Thompson machine gun
Yeah, I
is?
know what Thompson is.
The round,
Bullet chamber.
yeah, for ammunition. And he jacked it up. He's putting a live round in there. And he was going to mow us down.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Wow.
now what happened, it was Saturday morning, so the line behind us was growing very big. Maybe there must have been about 40 or 50 cars waiting and honking horns. So right behind us was the colonel, one of the colonels of the base. And he got out the car and came over and said, what's the matter? And he didn't talk to any of the cadets. He talked to the white guard. And they talked. And then he turned around and said, your leave is canceled. Get back on the bus. And, so that was the justice that we got. You see what I mean? Like that. Yeah.
So, did you ever meet Noel Parrish?
I didn't have what's that?
Did you ever meet Noel Parrish?
Oh yeah, Noel Parrish he was one of the great leaders of the Tuskegee Airmen. One, he wasn't segregated at all. He had a nice, well, he understood things. You could explain it to him, and you could reason with him. That's the best way I could say it.
In fact,
Yeah.
the highest award given by the Tuskegee Airmen organization is named after him.
Huh.
Well,
The Noel Parrish Award.
Right. They give that every year. They still do it to for the Tuskegee Airmen. Even though they don't have not too many of us left. The originals, the dotas as they call them, the documented Tuskegee Airmen. But we don't know how many exactly because so many of them haven't joined up with the different chapters, so they couldn't be counted.
Yeah.
Like that.
So, can you tell us about your experience with the Freeman Field Mutiny?
I don't know that.
Oh.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
She wants to know about your experience with the Freeman Field Mutiny.
Oh yeah. We were we were down in around this time. The war in the European theater was dying down.
And
Attention turned toward the Far East. And in preparation to go to the Pacific Theater, we were sent to Seymour, Indiana, for more over-the-water training, the Great Lakes and everything up there. However, we met with an urgent struggle. The colonel up there did not want blacks on his base at all, and we 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 went up, and what we did, we went to the base theater.
You heard that there was a memo, right?
Hmm?
You heard that there was a memo. He had put out a memo
Yeah, that he didn't want blacks on the
that
base.
you could not use the officers' club.
Yeah, and that's why we said we would go to the theater, and then we would go to the officers club. And when we went to the officers club, there were uh, special police, military police out there, and they said that we couldn't go in, but we brushed bottom and went in and sat down, ordered some stuff. And that time, here come another squad car of the special police and the colonel of the base, and he said, "You are under arrest, barrack arrest." And what happened if they'll they would interrogate you, not as a group, but they get you out one by one, and they would try to break you down. And so uh, they they called me out one day and one night, and he said, "Are you aware?" This lasted for about an hour. I was called out about 2 a.m. and I was directed to a small room with just one bright light bulb and a desk and 3 folding chairs. Now, the interrogation lasted about 1 hour. 2 points stuck in my mind. They wanted to know who our leaders were. 2, one officer bellowed at me, "Lieutenant, are you aware that by refusing to obey a direct order from a senior officer in the time of war that you could be sentenced to the stockade, or worse, you could be hung?" Now, that was pretty heady stuff for me. And so, I actually had a heart-to-heart talk with my Savior. And because I was around 2022 at that time, and it was just disheartening.
Yeah.
At that time, another officer said, "We're ready to swear you in as a hostile witness under oath." And with that, he read the pertinent articles of war to me as outlined in Army Regulation. During my arrest, I was visited by 2 full colonels from the Inspector General's office, as requested by the Secretary of War, Stimson. Intense interrogation followed. The most dangerous downside of the situation was that the efficiency of the 477 Medium Bombardment Group was temporarily destroyed because we were all under arrest. Now, what happened? There was a hue and cry by black newspapers, parents. Now, my mother notes we had to smuggle out to our families because we could confine to certain barracks where we could sleep and eat, but we were bound in by barbed wire.
whoa.
Oh, barbed wire.
Huh?
Barbed wire. I was just surprised.
Yeah, barbed wire and the guards. But the thing that bothered me most Now, we could look over the barbed wire, through the barbed wire, and we see these guys out on the field smoking, laughing, and going into the PX. And these guys had POWs on their back. They were German and Italian prisoners of war. And here we were fighting for our country and were placed under arrest. So we had to really, really talk to ourselves, and so as not to get disgusted. We had to really. Well, anyway, that was one of the low times of my life. You know, and my mother, uh, she worked on the Pennsylvania Railroad as a short order cook, and when she wasn't working, you know what she would do? She'd take the blank paper and just traverse the train. And she got over 500 signatures, about releasing her son. And she sent that to the War Department. Now, at that time, Colonel Selway was removed as base commander. Because what happened, the war in Europe was winding down, you see, almost over, because the Tuskegee Airmen and other Allied fighters had destroyed the German Luftwaffe. You see, Colonel B.O. Davis Jr. was recalled from the European theater of war to take charge. This is the first time that we, the 477, was commanded by a black senior officer. General George C. Marshall ordered our release from arrest. And we were then sent to Walterboro Army Air Base in South Carolina for further overwater training in preparation for being sent to the Pacific Theater. See, the war in Europe, the Nazis, so forth, were defeated. So now we had to go take care of the Japanese.
Yes.
At this venture, things were moving at quite a rapid pace. Colonel Davis reorganized the 477 into a composite group by eliminating squadrons 616 and 619 and adding the 99th Fighter Squadron. Since my squadron, the 616th, was eliminated, I was permitted to return to Tuskegee and enroll in the pilot training program. At this venture, things were moving at quite a rapid pace, I gotta say. I had passed the pre-flight stage, successfully soloed to complete the primary phase of training. On August 6th, the atom bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. On August 9th, another nuclear device was dropped on Nagasaki. You recall that?
Yep.
At this time, I was the lead plane on a cross-country flight when I heard on the radio that the War Department released a directive stating that all officers who had accrued enough points and had a certain MOS number could opt for early out. I immediately returned to the base, hurried to the administrative building, and filed the form for my release. On November 7, 1945, I was honorably discharged from the Army Air Corps. And thanks to the persistent, untiring efforts on the part of Lieutenant Colonel James C. Warren to eradicate the U.S. government's terrible wrong in the Freeman Field Mutiny, and to the most positive response and cooperation on the part of Rodney Coleman, the then Assistant Secretary of the Air Force. He was a black man. On August 12, 1995, 50 years later, in Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Coleman announced that the letters of reprimand would be expunged from the records of those who would request same. Because we had those letters in our records. Air Force Chief of Staff General Ronald Fogelman presented Warren and Terry with official documents expunging their records also, and also overturning the court-martial verdict, which convicted Roger Terry. They were the first three to go into the club that was segregated. So that's that's about that's about all I can think of.
Do you think that the mutiny increased rights for black people serving in the armed forces? Did it have any effect on like the racial situation?
What do you say?
Did the mutiny have any effect on racism in the armed forces?
I would say definitely yes, because as a result of our mutiny, President Truman issued an edict abolishing segregation in the armed forces. See? Right, definitely.
9981.
Uh, jeez.
Okay. So at the time, America treated blacks like second-class citizens. So why would you want to fight for that kind of country?
You have to forgive me, I can't hear you.
At the time, America treated blacks as second-class citizens.
Right.
So why would you want to fight for your country?
You know, I get that question every time I talk, because I go out and speak for the Speakers Bureau. And my only answer I can say is this: when we were tied up and bonded, couldn't go anywhere, we were under barrack arrest. It just came down. Of course, we could have just protested more and so forth.
Gotten bitter.
But America that was the only country I knew. And things were bad, of course. But we said, we've got to try to make them better,
Oh.
individually. You understand? And that's what we did. So that was a very good question. And we really thought about that quite a bit.
Mm.
But that was the main thing. We had to try to make it better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what did you do after leaving Tuskegee? Or leaving the army?
Yeah, but after leaving the army.
oh, after I left Tuskegee, I, I became a part of your education system. See, I, used my scholarship. I used my scholarship money and went to, the graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And yeah, I became
that's fine.
a music director, a band director, a guidance counselor, and later on,
It's great.
vice principal.
Vice. I think I read that you also you had a band.
Oh yeah, we had a band called Roy Battle and the Altones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we would play swing music,
Sweet.
jazz music,
Yep.
music of people like you heard of uh, Artie Shaw. You ever heard of Artie Shaw?
No.
I actually heard his music
Really?
a while ago. Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Glenn Miller.
Yeah, Glenn Miller. You heard of Glenn Miller? Oh,
No.
you gotta put these down.
Duke Ellington.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Duke
Duke
Ellington.
Ellington.
Of course, Duke
Yep.
Ellington.
Make music of that. Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman.
I haven't heard of him.
I might have heard the songs. I just forgot the names a while
Yeah.
ago. I used to be really into jazz and swing.
He used to be really into jazz.
Oh, really? That's wonderful. Your parents were involved in?
Nah, my parents like music too, but they mostly like traditional Chinese.
Yeah. I don't know. Jazz is great.
Jazz is great though.
Yeah.
So he said he's heard some of the songs, but he might not be able to associate the names
Oh,
with
yeah.
the songs.
Right. Yeah.
So, what effects do you think that the Tuskegee Airmen had on the civil rights movement?
Oh, I really think that actually It's like this.
This was 10
We,
years.
it was 10 years since before Rose Park sat on
Yep.
the bus by itself. You see what I mean? We were in the forefront of that. Now, we weren't trying to, because of the first, we were trying to stay alive. You see? But so that's what we had. And I get every time I go out, I meet black and white. They say they thank us because what we did, they wouldn't be where they were. You know, the servicemen and the people.
Pilots.
Yeah. So, in closing, there are three things that I would like you to keep in mind and
Yep.
heart as a result of our time together today.
Alright.
Okay?
Mhm.
Yep. Listen.
It is my honor.
Number one.
Number one. Right. Right. Just got to slow me up. It is my honor and privilege to be a documented original Tuskegee Airman. But always remember that we are only part of the long and rich tradition of blacks in the military.
Mhm.
There has been no war fought by or within the United States in which African Americans did not participate. And I'll share with you some notable highlights. In the Revolutionary War, we saw America's first all-black military unit, the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. In the War of 1812, blacks comprised the Louisiana Battalion of free men of color. The Mexican-American War brought the continued service by the free men of color. Also, blacks served on a number of naval vessels. During the Civil War, the 54th Massachusetts Infantry, made up of more than 1,000 blacks, was activated. 5 black nurses served aboard a U.S. Navy hospital ship. Sergeant William H. Carney, a former slave, became the first of many black soldiers who earned the Medal of Honor for his valor in the battle that was immortalized in the 1989 film Glory. Remember that?
Mhm.
The Indian Wars fought bravely and ferociously by the Buffalo Soldiers. Remember them? You ever heard of them?
Yep.
The
Yes, I
Buffalo
British
Soldiers.
American War.
Look it up if you,
Yeah, we know.
and get this, including Kathy Williams, the first black female Buffalo Soldier. She disguised herself as a man to enlist. That's that's a lot of history there.
yeah.
Also, Henry O. Flipper, a Buffalo Soldier, became the first black soldier to be accepted to West Point.
First black.
Medals of Honor were earned by 13 enlisted men and 6 officers from the black regiments. The black regiments continued to serve during the Spanish-American War, and 5 more Medals of Honor were earned. In the First World War, the 369th Infantry Regiment, they were called the Harlem Hellfighters, became the first all-black U.S. combat unit to be shipped overseas. In World War II, the U.S. Army established a black armor unit, the 78th Tank Battalion. The Army Air Corps began training black pilots at Tuskegee, the first African American to serve in the modern U.S. Navy in any capacity other than galley, known as B-1 Navy Band. There was a band here. Della Rainey was the first black nurse commissioned as a lieutenant in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps. The Marine Corps began recruiting blacks for duty, forming the Montford Point Marines. Did you ever hear of them?
Yeah, we read
Mon-
about them.
Yes, we've read about
yeah, okay. Then the 550 Parachute Infantry Battalion, or the Triple Nickel, was activated. This was the first all-black parachute test unit with black officers as well as black enlisted men. They were training on a secret mission against the Japanese called Operation Firefly. Those Uh, Toast driving.
Right.
Well, gotta get me something to
Yep.
drink.
You
Now,
need to get some water.
much to their surprise, it was sent to Oregon. That winter, the Japanese released 9,000 balloons into the jet stream.
Yep.
Each,
Yes.
each balloon contained an incendiary bomb with a 3-day time. The 555th was sent to combat the forest fires caused by these devices, thus becoming history's first military smoke jumpers, earning them another nickname, the smoke jumpers. Then there was the Golden 13. Oh, thanks. Get my little water here.
It's later.
Golden 13 became the first African American commission and warrant officers in the U.S. Navy. And here's something that's interesting. Uh, the sixth,
Sorry.
You just had to turn on the lights really quick.
okay, six eight 6888th Central Postal Directory Battalion was the only all-black women's Army Corps unit to serve overseas. They were responsible for delivering mail throughout the European theater. Korean War heralded the last lingering formal practice of segregation in the Army when the 24th Infantry Regiment was disbanded. Black soldiers now served in all combat service elements and were involved in all major combat operations.
Mhm.
The Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, all opened increasing opportunities for blacks in the military, both men and women, and they continued to serve valiantly. Two, all that was number one. Well, that's two. When most people talk about the Tuskegee Airmen, they are referring uh, to the roughly 1,000 pilots who were trained from 1941 to 1945. However, each pilot in the air, for each pilot in the air, there were 10 people on the ground that kept us flying. They too were in a Tuskegee Airman. And the third point, I have lived my life by my squad mantra. My squadron's mantra. Stay focused, stick to it, get it done.
Stick. Okay. That's a
Yes.
good mantra.
Yep.
Yeah, that was our mantra. No excuses.
Following up on that, do you have any advice for today's youths?
Uh, yes, I would say, well, the main thing is be true to yourselves and just try to take that first step towards freedom. And you get that from getting, you know, oh, look, the most, in my mind, the most important word in the English dictionary, what do you think it would be? You pick my mind.
You guys first.
The most important word.
I was gonna say freedom too.
Huh?
Freedom?
Well, you, in a sense, you might have freedom, but you might not have access because of that freedom. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the important word is access. No matter what, you, if you get access to something, then you cannot blame anybody but yourself if you don't do good. So, because a lot of people feel they're free to do this, free to do that, but they're not free to go into this neighborhood because of the tenants that they have
Mhm.
or whatever. See? But if they have access to it, no matter if you're poor or a millionaire, you should be able to have the same access to whatever your mind would tell you.
What about parents? Parents. You talk about the importance of parents
Yeah.
to young people today.
Yes. And thinking, and think of that with parents, because young people, r- whether they realize it or not, they get a lot of their work experiences from their parents.
Yeah.
Yes.
If the parents are the type to, you know, some mothers have to work 3 and 4 jobs to put their children through college, you see? And so the you watch that, that's a good work experience. You see what I mean? You don't just lie around and get involved in drugs and all of that. You know, so
You make your bed, you do your chores,
Yes.
so it's very important. Like,
they guide you.
huh?
They guide you,
Oh
they
yeah.
teach you chores, they teach you how to do things in the house. And
Oh yeah. Even simple things like making up your bed right. Because
Yeah.
believe me, in the service, that's very important.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When they come through inspection and they bounce that cord off that top mattress, if it doesn't bounce back, if it lays there, you got to make up those beds again. You know, but you get a whole lot of basic things from home, from your parents, and even uh, greeting people. You know, you learn the good words. Thank you. May I? Please. You see, that's what you do. You put it. Uh, that's a part of growing up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
I think I've talked about everything.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so
well,
much for
yes,
your time.
Hmm?
actually,
Yeah.
Yes.
he has written 2
Oh,
autobiographies.
Yep.
Yes.
yeah.
He's written a book called Easier Said
Yep.
Easier said.
and a
Mhm.
book called And the Beat Goes On.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more than he said today in those books,
Yes.
but he's giving you more than enough probably for whatever you need.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot for.
much.
Thank you. This has been great.
It's been
Yeah,
a
it's been an
wonderful.
honor to talk to you.
Yep.
So what is going to be the format of your project?
Our
Oh,
project is
our
actually a
project is a
website.
website, and we're currently making it for a competition at the national level.
For History Day?
Yep.
Yes,
For History Day.
National History Day.
Yeah. So we'd love to get a link when you do.
Oh, we can send you the link right now.
Well, it's not done yet.
Oh,
Right.
it's in a work in progress.
Wait, we'll send it when we're done.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Chelsea.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you so
Now,
much.
if you
Yes.
if you Google no YouTube, if you look him up on YouTube,
Get it up.
Oh, that's right.
what is the name of that film?
YouTube. Is it Red Tails?
Mm, there's a documentary about General B.O. Davis.
Oh, what is it called?
I'm trying to think of the name. But I think if you Google General Davis, his picture comes up. Dad's picture comes up.
Oh, okay.
And that is the video that the young man made for his History Day project
Nice.
Okay, we'll be sure to look at that.
a few years ago.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. We'll be sure to look that one up.
Yes.
Oh, and the Ryan Burton is the young man who did
Okay.
it.
James, we can look it up later.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Okay,
It's a 9-minute video,
9 minutes.
but it was a really good job he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we look forward to your website.
All right.
Okay.
Woohoo!
Thank you for speaking with us.
oh, it's an honor. It really is.
Well, it was an honor to speak to you.
Yeah, see, because I'm 92 years old, and so I appreciate definitely the youth. And I treasure every minute that I live.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
Adios. Thank you.